Why are we never satisfied? There is a moment that I think most people have felt at least once. You finally get the thing you wanted. The job, the relationship, the number on the scale, the room you redecorated, the version of your life you kept imagining. And for a little while, it feels exactly like you hoped it would. But then, slowly, without any announcement, the feeling fades, and you are already looking ahead again, already wanting something slightly different, something slightly more, and somewhere in the quiet, a voice asks, why does nothing ever feel like enough? That question, that specific, exhausting, quietly devastating question has followed human beings for as long as we have existed. And today, I want to sit with it, not to fix it, not to hand you a list of habits, but to actually understand it. Because I think the reason we cannot answer it is that we have never looked at it honestly. We have only ever tried to outrun it. The feeling of never being satisfied is not new. It is not a symptom of modern life. It does not come from Instagram or ambition or the wrong mindset. It goes much further back. The human brain was shaped in a world that is genuinely dangerous, a world where the moment you stopped scanning for threats was often the moment a threat arrived, and so the brain developed a very specific instinct: never settle completely, always look for what could go wrong, always ask what is still missing. The people who felt that quiet restlessness, who never fully relaxed, who always kept searching, those were the people who survived. Dissatisfaction was not a flaw, it was the survival engine. But here is the painful part. We still carry that same brain in a world that, for many of us, is no longer dangerous in those ways. The brain never received a signal that said, you are safe now, you can rest. And so it keeps doing what it was built to do. Keep wanting, keep searching, keep whispering that what you have is not quite enough. Not because something is wrong with your life, but because something ancient inside you was simply never designed to stop. But that only explains part of it, because biology is not the whole story. There is something else, something quieter, something that was taught to you before you were old enough to question it. Think back to being young, not in a dramatic way, just ordinary moments, a test you studied hard for. You brought it home, you got a good grade, and maybe the response was warm for a second, and then almost immediately, what about the next one? Or maybe you made something you were proud of, and the person you showed it to said it was nice, but then suggested how it could be better. Or maybe you just noticed, over years of small moments, that the warmth in the room increased when you achieved something, and cooled slightly when you did not. Nobody said it out loud. Nobody sat you down and told you your worth is conditional. But you learned it anyway, the way children always learn the most important things. Not through words, through feeling, through atmosphere, through what made people smile at you and what made them look away. And slowly, without meaning to, you built an operating system around a single belief: I am not quite enough yet, and the next thing I achieve will be the thing that finally fixes that. And here is the cruelest part. Even when you achieve it, the belief does not update. Because that is not how beliefs work. They do not dissolve with accomplishments. They dissolve with something much harder to reach. But we will get there. There is a psychological concept called the hedonic treadmill. And once you understand it, you cannot unsee it. The idea is simple. No matter what happens in your life, your emotional state tends to drift back toward a personal baseline. Good things raise it temporarily, difficult things lower it temporarily, but over time, you return to roughly where you were before. Think about a time you got something you really wanted. There was probably a period where it felt genuinely good. The new apartment, the relationship starting to feel real, the recognition at work you waited months for, and then, almost without noticing, it became normal. It became the background, and the wanting quietly moved somewhere else. This is not a character flaw, it is just how the mind adapts. What is extraordinary today becomes ordinary tomorrow, and what is ordinary, we stop feeling grateful for. We simply start needing more of it. Researchers found that lottery winners, a year after winning enormous amounts of money, reported happiness levels almost identical to before they won. And the things that used to bring them simple pleasure, food, a good conversation, a walk in the sun, those things had lost some of their ability to move them because the baseline had shifted and everything below it felt like nothing. The treadmill does not stop, it just becomes invisible. So we keep believing the next thing will feel different. We keep telling ourselves a story. Psychologists sometimes call it the arrival fallacy, the quiet, persistent, completely convincing belief that there is a version of your life just ahead of you, where things will finally feel settled, where you will finally exhale, where the searching will stop. I will feel okay when I'm finally in a relationship. I will feel okay when I stop being in debt. I will feel okay when my body looks different. I will feel okay when I move to a better city, when I find work that feels meaningful, when people understand me, when I stop feeling so behind. And the strange thing is, the story is not wrong about the wanting. You do want those things, some of them are real and important, but the story is wrong about what achieving them will do. Because the moment you arrive, the story does not end. It updates. A new version of not yet appears almost immediately, and you find yourself standing exactly where you stood before, just in a slightly different room, still waiting, still looking ahead, still wondering when the feeling of enough will finally come. It is one of the quietest prisons a person can live inside. Because from the outside, it looks like drive, like ambition, like someone building a life, but from the inside, it feels like a road that quietly never arrives anywhere. And then there is comparison, which has always existed, but has never existed like this. Human beings evolved to compare themselves to the people immediately around them. A small group, people you could actually see, people whose lives you knew something real about. And even that was enough to cause suffering. But today, we carry a portal in our pockets that opens at any moment onto millions of people, their achievements, their bodies, their relationships, their kitchens and their holidays, and their smiling faces and their perfectly timed moments, and our ancient brain, which was designed for 50 people, now has to process an endless flood of human highlights. And it does what it was built to do. It compares, it calculates, it quietly decides where you rank. And almost every time, you come up slightly short. Not because your life is lacking, but because you are comparing your entire reality to other people's most curated moments. You see someone's promotion announcement, not the 3 years of doubt that came before it. You see someone's relationship looking warm and easy, not the conversations they are avoiding. You see someone's body, not their relationship with food. and your brain does not know the difference. It just sees the gap and quietly tells you, you are behind. There is more you should have by now, and something you had before you opened that app feels a little smaller after you close it. Not because your life changed, but because the measuring stick did. But underneath all of this, there is something even more personal. Something most people never quite reach. Because when you ask someone what they truly want, really ask them, they rarely say the object. They say the feeling. I want to feel safe. I want to feel seen. I want to feel like I belong somewhere. I want to feel like I did not waste my life. I want to feel like someone is proud of me. And that last one, that one is important, because for so many people, the endless chasing is not about the things at all. It is about a feeling they have been trying to earn since they were very small. The feeling of being enough, not for what you achieved, just for being here. And the wound that drives so much of the wanting is often just this: a child who learned that love came with conditions, that closeness required performance, that you had to keep becoming something to stay worth something. And that child grew up and started chasing and never fully understood that what they were chasing was not success. It was the love that should have been free. And the heartbreaking truth is, no achievement will ever give that to you, because the thing that was missing was never something to be earned. It was something to be felt and received. And that can only come from learning to offer it to yourself, which is the hardest thing, and the only thing that actually works. There is a line from Pascal, a philosopher who lived 400 years ago, who wrote that all of humanity's unhappiness comes from one thing: the inability to sit quietly in a room alone. And the first time I read that, I thought he was being dramatic, but I think now he was pointing at something true. Because when everything goes quiet, when there is no phone, no task, no noise to slip inside, we are left alone with ourselves. And for many people, that is genuinely frightening. Not because they are broken, but because in that stillness, the question they have been avoiding finally surfaces. Am I okay? Is this life actually mine? Am I becoming someone I recognize? And the wanting, all the wanting, is often just a way of not having to answer. Chasing the next thing gives you direction. It gives you a story. It gives you a reason to stay in motion, because motion means you do not have to sit with the question. And sitting with the question might ask something of you that feels too big. There is also something called meaning, which sounds like a large, abstract word, but I think it is actually very small, very ordinary. Meaning is not something you find at the end of a long search. It is something you feel in small moments. A conversation where someone finally understood what you were trying to say, work that felt like it came from somewhere real inside you, an afternoon with someone you love where nothing needed to happen, the moment you helped someone and felt it land. These are not dramatic. They are quiet, and they are the moments people remember longest, not the achievements, not the milestones, the ordinary moments where life briefly felt like it was actually worth being inside. And the strange thing is, most of us are moving too fast to feel them, because we are busy chasing the version of life that is supposed to feel meaningful, while the actual meaningful moments pass by quietly, just off to the side, unseen, because we were looking somewhere else. So if we understand all of this, Why does it not change anything? Why do we read something like this and nod and then go right back to the wanting? Because understanding is not the same as healing. And healing is not something that happens because you learned something once. It happens through something slower, through the 1,000 small daily moments where you practice something different, where you notice the wanting and pause, where you choose presence over distraction, where you sit with a question instead of immediately filling the silence, where you tell yourself the truth about what you are actually feeling. Not dramatic moments, small ones, ordinary ones, the kind that do not feel like they are doing anything until one day you realize they have been quietly adding up. I do not think the answer to never being satisfied is to become someone who wants nothing. That is not peace, that is numbness. And there is a difference. There is a kind of wanting that comes from emptiness, a restless, anxious hunger that is always reaching for the next thing, because the current thing cannot hold you, because you cannot hold yourself. That kind of wanting is exhausting, and it is the kind most of us know best. But there is another kind, a wanting that comes from fullness, the feeling of, I love being alive and I want more of it. I love this person and I want to give them more of myself. This work matters to me and I want to do it better. That kind of wanting feels different. It does not hollow you out. It moves you forward without making you feel like you are falling behind. One kind runs away from something. The other moves towards something. And the difference between them is not ambition. It is whether you feel okay in the present moment, whether you can be here without needing here to be different. That is the work, quiet, slow, daily work that no one can see from the outside. I want to close with something simple. The reason this question hurts is not that something is wrong with you. It is that you are paying attention. The people who never feel this, who never lie awake wondering if something is missing, are often the people who stopped listening to themselves long ago. But you are still listening, and that is not nothing. That is actually where it begins. Not with an answer, not with a new habit or a realization or a version of yourself that finally has it figured out, but with the willingness to sit with the question, to let it be uncomfortable, to stop running from it just long enough to hear what it is actually trying to say. Because I do not think the dissatisfaction is trying to destroy you. I think it is trying to point you somewhere. Not toward more, not toward better, but toward something quieter, something that has been waiting underneath all the noise, a version of your life that feels like yours, not the life you think you should want, but the one that, in your most honest moment, you already know you are missing. And maybe the first step is not adding something new. Maybe it is just stopping for a moment and asking, what would it feel like to already be enough? Not someday, not after the next thing, right now, in this moment, exactly as you are. What would that feel like? Thank you for being here and for letting this reach you before it fades.